5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are ready to start. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, our dear teachers, and welcome to our first podcast in 2022. My name is Catherine Ossery, and I'm going to host our meeting. Our guests today are Marina Evstratova, the head of methodology in TTC, and Valentina Afanasieva, TTC methodologist. So, how are you today, Marina?
I'm doing great, actually. The weather is frosty, but it makes all the trees and all the roofs look so beautiful, and it's sunny, and the uh, yeah, it's just the picture of a winter fairy tale outside my window. It makes me happy today.
Winter Wonderland, yeah.
Yep.
Good. Valentina, what about you? How are you today? How is the weather outside?
Now I envy both of you because it's been snowing since the very morning and it's really overcast and gray. So I'm not really happy about that, but doing all right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, got it. So actually, we are all from different places in our world, yeah, I would say. So our dear listeners, feel free to share with us where you are from and what about the weather in your city, in your country. Yeah, for example, what about the weather outside here where I am? It's quite warm today, plus 13. There is no rain, there is clear sky. That's why it's cool. And we really want to know about your weather, how you feel today. So, but anyway, it's not our the main topic. Yeah. Today we are going to talk about the problems and dangers of assessment. Yeah, not so interesting as weather may be, but I hope it will be really perfect for you to know some more information about that because a lot of people, a lot of teachers have problem with that. Yeah. So, dear listeners and speakers, I mean Valentina and Marina. Now I'm going to ask you the question, not like experts, but as teachers. Have you ever had a student or maybe students who always freaked out when it came to tests? Could you share these stories with us? Our listeners also feel free to share. I remind you. So, Marina, what about you?
I would say that well, my students who would fit your description would mostly be teenagers. Just because they come from the learning environment in which tests and exams are the basis to make big decisions about their, I don't know, about the curriculum or whatever stuff is going on around. And well, it's basically the basis to judge whether they are good students or not good students. So that usually makes my students freak out when it comes to tests on the platform, for example. So yeah, mostly
Yeah.
teenagers and those students who were traumatized severely by such tests in their school years, and they still, have these associations as adults.
Mhm. Actually, yeah, I agree with you. Teenagers are usually like they can be difficult to teach. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Valentina, what about your experience? Have you ever had this kind of students?
Not students who particularly freaked out about tests, but people, and those can be teenagers as well as adults, actually, who might have taken testing a bit too seriously, and they got really frustrated and upset and disappointed in themselves after they had gotten the results, because for them, for adults, it is sometimes a sign of how smart they are, unfortunately, which we know is not true, but for some people it is a really sensitive topic,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So yeah,
unfortunately.
I've had such.
Okay, so Valentina, Marina, thank you. And as I understand, one of the most popular reasons is that's like feeling frustrated about that, yeah, and taking it too seriously. But anyway, if we talk about other reasons why it happens, what can we pinpoint, Marina?
um, I'm probably going to dig deeper into theory and into science, but the term that leapt into my mind right now is consequential validity. I have no idea whether our audience knows what
I
that
don't.
means. Um, I've heard this term when I was studying testing and assessment in general. Well, basically, as I mentioned, every single test, especially a formal test, and by test I mean like exams, IELTS, TOEFL, CP, I don't know, methodology exams, whatever can come into your mind. They have some social consequences that would affect your life, and this is why exactly some tests are taken so seriously. So if you don't get a high score in IELTS, CP, TOEFL, you will not be able to, I don't know, get into your university of your dreams, or I don't know, immigrate somewhere, or get a job, whatever. And the consequences, the weight, social weight of these consequences might, well, it might worsen the experience of a student in general.
Okay, so this is the main reason still, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, then actually, yeah, that seems rather natural, and we can understand why students might be afraid of tests. But what about teachers? Can they feel uncomfortable about that too? Valentina.
Well, a really interesting question. I guess it depends on a kind of a teacher you are. And I believe that some, unfortunately, don't care because it's some time for them just to do whatever they want during the class while their student is actually doing the test. And for the rest of us, I guess it is also a very, well, not a very, but a stressful moment because the test is supposed to show how well our student has mastered this or that topic. So I understand how some teachers can feel pretty uncomfortable about that. But that is just another reason for us to understand why we're doing it and how to do it properly and plan accordingly. And that's just it.
It's good if we can find some advantages, yeah, from this situation. But anyway, might there also be difficulty how to use our platform instruments? What makes teachers confused in that? Marina, what do you think about our platform instruments in this situation?
Well, it's very difficult to say because if we're talking about the curricular results, well, basically we can use the tests that we have inside the integrated in the courses, and well, basically they are in different formats that we can use for formative assessment or summative assessment, however we want, and depending on the period, right, of studies. But the problem is that quite sometimes, if we're talking about tests and formal assessment, the things that we want to test and the tests themselves do not show us the same things. So, for example, if I want to check how well my student is behaving in terms of, for example, cultural competences, and I don't know how polite my student is going to be, how polite my student is going to sound in some very specific social situation that we were studying for several lessons. I would want to test this particular situation. But if we're talking about tests, for example, pre-prepared on the platform, like for grammar and for vocabulary, well, they are for checking different things, completely different. And choosing the way of testing is going to be a very, very difficult moment for every teacher. Because if we're talking about communicative skills and giving feedback to our students based on that, we would need to either design something by ourselves, or I don't know, make a testing task out of something that was supposed to be a communicative task in a lesson, and do something with it so that it would become a testing task. So it's very difficult to say what exactly we can do here because it's a gray area and nobody knows what to do with it. I mean, those people who create basically who create the content, who create some educational platforms, it's very difficult to solve on this level because we can test what we can put in the course, but we cannot test all the different student skills because this is not something that we can control.
Sure, yeah. Okay, Marina, thank you for your answer. And this was more about like test by themselves, yeah, about like that psychological side maybe somehow. But let's not forget that we are all teachers, yeah, and that's why we are here. And can we somehow teach through testing? Valentina, what do you think? Have you ever done that?
Teaching through testing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a great question. Um, as Marina said, the whole topic generally is just so ambiguous, I would say. And there is a thing which is called guest learning,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't really exist as is. But about 3 years ago or something, there was a research done by two scientists, Andre Sear and someone Anderson. I don't remember the first name, unfortunately. And they tested this theory on a small group of people where they asked them to first learn groups, pairs of words, and then try to recall them 10 minutes later. And then do the same thing with almost the same thing. I mean, there were pairs of words with other words, but not learning them, but trying to guess the second word. And the result of that research was that people actually had higher remembering rate, recall rate, after they've done the guessing,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting thing. But there are just so many variables to that, because if the guess was just out of blue, out in the left field, and very far from the correct one, they of course didn't remember anything. If it was just a near miss, there was a higher rate of remembering those words. And there haven't been any research after that. There hasn't been any. So it's really hard to say. I would say that we can teach something through testing, but we have to be really, really careful with that. And our student needs to be prepared for that. And what I mean by that, we might see they might see it as guessing, but we have to see it as a really, really carefully prepared work. When our students actually have a lot already, or when they know a lot, and when they're trying to guess the rest of it, I would say. And we definitely don't do that with the regular kind of tests, which we mostly talk about as the end of the course tests or the end of the unit tests. No, we can't do that. There is nothing to teach there at that point.
Why not?
Yeah. Because that is the final point where we are supposed to be testing something in particular, which we are going to talk about in a bit, I believe, because we definitely need to discuss something called backwash, which can be negative and beneficial. And if we are just simply making our student guess something at the final stage of the learning process, be it the course, the unit, or the whole, I don't know, the exam thing at the end of their studying, that will definitely cause negative consequence. That will bring a lot of negative consequences because the student will be really frustrated and they will not remember anything out of that.
Okay, I understand, Valentina. Thank you. Marina, would you add anything here?
I would also add that well, you definitely need to know when exactly you're going to use elicitation techniques or whatever guest learning we might implement here. I don't know. I see guest learning as something that that someone would use as a lazy method.
Really?
Well, exactly, because I mean, there is nothing in guessing as is. basically the whole point of elicitation, when you're giving your student the context and you're controlling where your student is drawing their attention and what specific things the students are extracting from this context. The whole point is in controlling the student's attention, and you're going to help the student with questions, with I don't know, with some examples, with some hints. And with the help of those hints, the student is going to be able to learn some contextual clues that are going to develop this skill of, I don't like this word, guessing. It's not guessing, but analyzing the context and seeing the full context, seeing all the details underlying beneath the surface. And in this case, yes, this is a very specific technique that we need to use. And guess learning is, well, I don't know, to me, it's a lazy method. Maybe someone uses that quite effectively, but obviously not me. Well, there is a good lesson framework. I'm sure that lots of teachers have heard about that, test, teach, test. This is a lesson framework that we can use when we're teaching language systems, grammar, vocabulary, phonology, discourse. And the whole point is that we're giving the student something beforehand. We're teaching the student with some regular frameworks that we're using. Then we're testing their knowledge, they're checking their hypothesis, and then we're correcting them, and then we're testing that again. So basically 2 tests, and then the students are able to extract some points, some valuable information out of that. But again, there is a teaching element in between. It's not just guessing. There must be some teaching element. It could be elicitation, could be something else, could be just the rule told, whatever. So yeah, I'm quite concerned about the fact that some people like to use guest learning. Yes, I don't know. I don't even consider it a method.
Many,
Really.
many minds. Yeah, that's why. But Marina, I'd like to ask you. Valentina has mentioned some backwash. Can you be more specific here?
Backwash is basically the effect of a test. We rarely think about the effects of our actions in tests specifically if we're talking about such usual elements of learning, but there is such a term that is used specifically for indicating this effect. The backwash or washback, referred to differently in different sources. It could be positive and negative. Positive backwash or washback is all about the expected results. So, I mean, the students are supposed to be tired after tests. They're supposed to, I don't know, worry about their results. They're supposed to, I don't know, better remember and recall something that they've learned. Some usual things that you basically associate with tests. But negative backwash effect would be all about something unexpected and something that has great effect on learning. Because after tests, after receiving bad results, for example, some students are not able to continue studying because they get disappointed and demotivated. And we as teachers might think that there's nothing wrong in getting bad results. I mean, especially if it's an English lesson. But some students, again, might be really derailed by this fact, and you never know, basically, that it could have happened. So basically, all the negative effects and consequences that you might imagine could be summarized as, this backwash effect.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've told us mostly about like some negative stuff, yeah. But how can we? What can we do in order to make it beneficial? Valentina, maybe you can say something. Tell us something.
Just doing the opposite from what Marina has just described. It is crucial in good testing to be testing what we've been teaching. Actually, just as simple as that. If the whole course, for example, or the main goal of the student was to learn how to write something, it would be, well, silly probably to be testing some other abilities at the end of this course or this like period of time. Or again, if they were focusing on the writing skill, for example, it would be inappropriate, invalid to be doing some multiple choice tasks on that test, because it's just irrelevant. This kind of testing, albeit possible in other circumstances, will not be appropriate for writing skills. So we should be testing what we've been teaching or the student has been learning. We also should choose various examples for that testing, and also test it directly. But they are all related to the same thing. We need to test something that the student has been aiming at particularly, their skills or their goals and all the things related to that. That will create beneficial backwash or positive one.
Okay, Marina, Valentina, thank you for this information about backwash. Yeah, and we've been talking about test and an assessment in general, but how reliable is all that? What makes a test reliable? Marina, can you give us some information about that?
Lots and lots and lots of
Whoa,
things.
good.
Oh, that's a topic of a whole another podcast. I don't know, if we're talking about an English lesson, an English language classroom, well, this is basically the something that we discuss here with the audience. I would say that a reliable test would be the test that contains all the features of the language that are connected somehow to what was taught previously. And well, that's also about reliability and validity. An invalid test would test something that you haven't actually taught before, and that's basically a useless test. Then I would say that there must be no ambiguous, vague answers and questions that you can understand differently depending on the context. I quite frequently look at my old grammar books that were used at school, for example, and I would see some options that, well, from my point of view, I don't know. It's good that they helped me formulate this principle that I follow right now. Well, in such old books, for example, that contain lots of examples out of the context, you can see lots of things that do not have enough context to say what tense form specifically you need to use or what word you need to use. If you don't know the topic of the test, you would be able to use lots and lots of different things. And if you have a stronger student, if you have someone who knows much more than the test is supposed to test, then this student would be assessed as someone who makes lots of mistakes, but it's not really assessed as their knowledge. And well, this is not what's supposed to happen with the test. And I always tell my students that if there is some context that you imply that fits the sentence, and you can explain your answer with the help of this context, and this is going to be the correct answer, and the answer in the book or I don't know in the program is going to be wrong. So yeah, that depends. And well, if we're talking about assessing on the platform again, I would say that not taking it seriously, too seriously, is going to help immensely because again, we're not making any great decisions based on what we test and how we teach. Our students are just learning. They're not, I don't know, changing their lives every single lesson, and there is no point in, dramatizing so much.
Yeah, actually, I suppose it is really like that because sometimes teachers tend to think, oh, my students make lots of mistakes, yeah, and their tests are not good. So yeah, without any drama, yeah, it's gonna be better. Okay, but anyway, if we turn back to our platform and if we summarize everything, yeah, how can we use all the information which we've heard today in order to use it on our lessons? Marina, can you add something?
Well, there are several principles probably that I would personally follow. I would make sure that I recycle every single piece of information, at least in some form. We can use tests inside lessons for that. We can use homework, sending regular homework to our students. We can use some revise and check lessons, or however they're called, progress tests, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And well, additionally, creating some communicative tasks to recycle everything that our students have learned. And repetition here is the key. And I would also say that one big point that I always follow with my students is that I do talk about the importance of recycling and repetition with them, so that we avoid the part of this negative backwash effect, at least to some extent. Because again, our students might be irritated by the fact that they need to go over and over again through the same information. But if they know why exactly it happens, if they know why exactly they need to do it, they would be much more tolerant towards our actions regarding repetition and testing and assessment and all that.
Thank you, Marina. Sounds like great plan, yeah. So, and I hope that all information will come in handy for everyone watching us. So, dear teachers, our time is unfortunately up, and in the chat you can find the link. We will be really glad if you fill out this feedback form, because your opinions, as usual, are very important for us, and we will take everything into consideration. So, thank you for coming, everyone. Our dear experts, thank you too for all the information. So, have a nice day and see you next time, which will be in February. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.